Hello and welcome to today's webinar. It's on how to make tablets work for an evolved service experience. My name is Jeremy Cowan and I'm Editorial Director and co-founder of IoT Now. It's my great pleasure to be your moderator today and thank you for joining us. We've got a fascinating discussion. It's about new business models, and it's brought to you with Core Wireless and Beecham Research. So the first thing to do is to introduce our speakers. Let's meet them in order of their appearance. The first speaker will be familiar to many of you from various webinars. He is Robin Duke-Woolley, founder and CEO of Beecham Research. It's great to have you here, Robin.
Yes, great to be here. Thanks very much, Jeremy.
And our next speaker will be Sander Mulder, Core Wireless's Vice President of Strategic IoT Accounts in Europe. A warm welcome to you, Sander.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Nice to be here.
And I'm also delighted to introduce you to Peter van den Houten, Core's Director of Pre-Sales Engineering. It's good to have you back again, Peter.
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you for having me.
Now, please don't forget, this webinar is being recorded, and tomorrow you can access the audio and slides via our website at iot-now.com. As always, we really want to know what you think. So in a moment, there will be a poll, and after the presentations, I will put your questions to our speakers. You can start sending me your questions right now. Just click on the questions button and type yours into the window. Any that I don't get to will be answered later offline by our speakers. Finally, if you're having any technical issues with audio or slides, you can also use the question window to get advice from our wonderful tech support team. As we're looking at the issues involved in making tablets work for an evolved service experience, it might help us all to know what stage you are at in using tablets yourself. Please remember your replies are anonymous. So have a look at this question. How would you best describe your business's current phase of tablet adoption? Are you researching the future use of tablets? Are you implementing the use of tablets? Are you actively using tablets? Or are you still undecided on the use of tablets? So how would you describe your business's current phase of tablet adoption? Are you researching, implementing, or actively using tablets? Or are you as yet undecided on the use of tablets? Let's go forward and see what results we've got in. That is quite interesting. There's a dead heat between researching the future use of tablets and those who are undecided on the use of tablets. But nobody is actually implementing them at the moment. We are happily seeing some are actively using it. So there's a sort of varying stages of development. Sander, is that what you were expecting to see?
Well, it's not maybe really what I expected to see, but for sure it is something, and that's also why we are having the webinar today, is because I think there's a great need for managed tablet solutions, but that the use cases, there are already many, of course, but I think that the market is ready to even, evolve faster on this one. Is there anything you would like to add to that, Peter?
No, I would agree with that. I think perhaps the reason behind some of the answers there is that whilst most people will understand the general application of tablets, sometimes what's not necessarily completely obvious is how using and implementing tablets can benefit their specific business model or where they're looking to develop their products and services to.
Yeah. Robin, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes, I think actually it reflects the fact that most people have not really yet given much consideration to the use of tablets. As I'll be saying in my slides in a short time, the actual use of tablets within business is increasing, and it's increasing quite quickly. But there's a long way to go to capture the base of businesses out there. So I think that there are a lot of people who are still actually not even sure about the use of tablets actually, and why use them. So actually, from that point of view, this webinar is perfect.
Yeah, it's particularly useful. Well, without further ado, let's get into the discussion. Robin, over to you. The floor is yours.
Well, thanks very much, Jeremy. So the first slide is that's right. Yes, it's taking a little while to get here. This is just the starter, really. But so what I was saying just now is that it may not be that well understood just how much use of tablets there is in business. I mean, obviously, the use of tablets in the consumer market took off very quickly and is a much higher number. But in business use, it's much lower. There are bring your own devices into business, and then there's company-supplied ones. But actually using them in part of the operations activity is a growing activity, but somewhere behind the use of consumer devices. But as you can see from this chart, there's been a fairly linear growth over the last few years in the shipment of devices that are going to be used for business. And if we look at some of the key sectors for this growth, where these tablets are being used, and this is looking at all sections, really. So we've got financial and insurance services, we've got business and professional services, industrial, government, energy and utilities, retail and hospitality, transportation, construction, healthcare and life sciences. And many of those are sort of customer support type applications, field service type applications, and so forth. So they're not used necessarily within offices. They're used typically out of the office, where a mobile device is useful, where, frankly, use of a tablet that doesn't have a keyboard and stuff like that to get in the way is also very useful. So if you think of those sorts of application areas, that's what is really where it's at in each of those individual sectors. But then the question may come up, well, what's that got to do with IoT? And that's the purpose then of this slide. So not only are tablets being used in a lot of different places within business, but they're also being used in areas that are, as you say, IoT-based operations, or IoT data is being collected alongside them. So some of those activities are as listed in this slide. So, building maintenance, commercial equipment servicing, home healthcare, insurance, residential services, utilities. Those are all areas where there are field engineers, field technicians, customer support, customer service, maintenance requirements, and so forth, where IoT data is being collected, and that data can be very useful, put onto a tablet alongside other information that may be required to actually conduct the service and do the operation. And that's really what I think it's all about. So for those types of activities, it makes a great deal of sense for a company like Core to offer tablets. So Core is involved in providing connectivity and solutions to in the IoT space. So if they can provide tablets as well, they're providing more of the overall requirement. So Core is a global end-to-end provider of IoT services and offering tablets to those operations already using IoT data makes great sense. So now I'm going to hand over to Sander Mulder, who is going to take us through the outline of just what Core does in this area. Over to you, Sander.
Thank you so much, Robin, for this great introduction. Before we do a deep dive into our managed tablet solutions, I would like to tell you a little bit more about Core itself, what we do from a product perspective, but also from a organizational perspective. What I always say is that Core is one of the leading IoT network providers. But what does that mean to be one of the leading managed service providers globally? It means that Core amplifies and simplifies the development and deployment of the Internet of Things applications across the globe. For example, Core offers enhanced software platforms to speed up customer delivery and data management in a large-scale IoT deployments. We do it flexible, fully featured, and tailored to fit the needs of our customers. To give you an example, Position Logic, our business-to-business location-based services solution, which supports our customer with integrated applied business intelligence, precision technology, and customized services. Next to that, Core works with over 16 Tier 1 carriers for a true global coverage. Just to name a few of them, we have and work together, for example, with Vodafone, O2, Telefonica, T-Mobile, EE, KPN, AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, Rogers, Optus, Inmarsat, and Iridium. And this collaboration of trusted partners offers the best in cellular and satellite network services, as well as advanced applications to easily manage IoT devices. Although it's great to work with these important partners, it's also bringing a lot of extra challenges. For example, how do you manage multi-carrier agreements, not only from a deployment perspective, but also related to insights in data usage, billing and alerting services, for example. This is where Core truly differentiates. We have developed our own award-winning management platform named Prism Pro. It supports global and multi-carrier networks, not just cellular, but also on satellite. To be a bit more specific, all of the mentioned previous carriers can be mentioned on this single platform. Prism Pro offers a complete feature set that includes in near real-time customizable reporting, device and network management, provisioning, billing, and very important to mention, usage alerts. It is tied to the leading service delivery platforms used by carriers itself and standardized to deliver a single set of management tools. This allows Core to be a single point of contact and eliminates support times, decreases costs, and improves productivity for our partners and customers. IoT solutions require a range of complex pieces of technology before they are ready for market. We have built our company on the basis of integrating with the leading MNOs and OEMs to provide our customers with a solution to manage their complete IoT deployment in just one place. From a product innovation perspective, we offer multiple and customizable options to fit the needs of our customers. Core offers a variety of services to accommodate your need for IoT global technology. What does that mean? Well, with options like bring your own carrier, a single API open architecture, eSIM, multi-IMSI, custom SIM rate plans, and end-to-end security features, you have the flexibility to connect to the Internet of Things on your own terms and with our reliability. What I also would like to share with you is a little bit more about Core from an organizational point of view. We are founded in 2003 and grew organically by acquisitions of, for example, Jazz Wireless, Rayco Wireless, Position Logic, Mac Communications, Enphase Assets, and the Wireless Group, including Aspider in the Netherlands. With these acquisitions, Core is the largest MVNO in the world in terms of revenue, profitability, and managed connections. And to support that, is what I also could share with you, is that we are being recognized by Gartner as a challenger in their magical quadrant as the only non-MNO. Now, what does that mean? We have 12 offices all over the world. We have 4 offices in the US, of which also our headquarters in Atlanta. We have 2 offices in Canada. In the Dominican Republic, we have an office in Brazil, in the UK, in the Netherlands, Singapore and Australia. With that, we have a true global footprint. We also have 8 global data centers, 1 in Atlanta, 1 in Cincinnati, in London, Amsterdam, Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Melbourne, Australia, and in Sydney. Due to our global capabilities, we differentiate against many other providers in the IoT space because we can quickly respond to local requirements, such as language, support, public holidays, time zones, regulatory concerns, and any necessary localization of contracts. Our data centers offer worldwide availability, scalability, reliability, disaster recovery, data storage, data sovereignty, and security in a cost-effective manner. This by serving the needs of small, medium, and large enterprises. These data centers are state-of-the-art and geographically redundant, providing uptimes in emergencies of 99.99%. Our global support teams provide follow-the-sun, 24/7 support, ensuring a rich and responsive customer experience. Core is deeply integrated into the services where we access the licensed networks of the previous mentioned 16+ carriers across the globe. This creating a truly global footprint for our customers. Some highlights. We have 400 people in Core globally. And what I always like to say, and it's always a nice discussion with our customers, is that the people working within Core are only working within the IoT space. Some other providers or sometimes carriers, they also sell other stuff like fixed telephony or mobile telephony or whatever. And we in Core, we only work truly in the IoT space, and therefore we have a lot of knowledge about IoT. We have more than 6,000 customers, some smaller startups, but also customers with over 1 million devices. We manage 8.5 million devices on our Prism Pro management platform. We have 315,000 platform subscribers on our Position Logic platform. 3 carriers are using our management tool. We offer eSIM and multi-IMSI technology to be leveraged globally. So that concludes the part of explaining a little bit more about Core, who we are and what we offer. And I also would like to take you through some trends we see into the market. One of the trends we see is, for example, healthcare. We see an increasing requirement for home healthcare services, which require a mobile device to access, record, and manage patient and/or treatment information. There's an economic pressure forcing healthcare organizations to find new models of care that reduce hospital readmissions. We see a need to improve hospital consumer assessment of healthcare providers and system performance. Another thing is that global aging population is increasingly choosing to age in place and avoid assisted living for as long as possible. We also see as a trend field services. As an increasing number of organizations and service-based offerings to their portfolios, an increasing number of field workers are required. According to a recent survey by Field Technologies magazine, 38% of employees claim the use of mobile devices at work has contributed to increased efficiency and job satisfaction. Information derived from IoT applications provides technicians with the necessary information to know exactly where and when maintenance is needed. The third and final trend we see is retail and food services. There are mobile, seasonal, and pop-up locations which require temporary mobile way to process payments. Implementing self-service menus provide advantages such as enabling organizations to operate with fewer headcount, generating suggestions for customers that present upsell opportunities, or improving order accuracy and efficiency. Standalone kiosks, for example, increase revenues with no added headcount at all. Peter, over to you. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about the managed tablet solutions and how they not only contribute to the trends, but also how they add value across the horizontal verticals we see.
Thank you, Sander. Thank you for the introduction. So as Sander said, in this next section, we're really going to look at the overall benefits of using tablet devices in business today, be that for the purpose of driving efficiency in the workplace or even creating new service-based revenue streams. So why are businesses using tablets, and why are tablets getting an increasing amount of interest from businesses looking to change or improve the way they work or the way they serve their marketplace? The simple answer to that question is because we as consumers are highly familiar with and pre-educated on the inner workings of tablet devices, and we intuitively know how to interface with them. As users of mobile phones and specifically mobile phone operating systems, it's really second nature to us. Now, on the subject of mobile phones, whilst today's smartphones and tablets essentially share a common operating system and way of interfacing with the device, a key difference between the two in terms of being or becoming business tools goes back to where each form factor really started out. For the most part, the mobile phone started out as a business tool or a high-end consumer gadget, which was familiar really only to those who had a need to use one. And if we contrast that with tablet devices, it's somewhat of a different story. Due to the advances of mobile phone operating systems and how specifically Apple iOS and Google Android could naturally be applied in tablet form, the majority of the tablets that we're familiar with started life as consumer gadgets. The consumer tablet was a device of convenience and familiarity. It had the familiarity of a mobile phone and the operating system that goes with it, but with the convenience of a more sizable screen and a speed of access that a laptop couldn't really match up to. The fast-paced adoption of tablets in the consumer space also led to the growing trend of bring your own device programs that Robin alluded to, which when applied in the workplace really struck fear into the hearts of many an IT manager who was left wondering how he or she was going to have to break the news to the CEO that it really wasn't a good idea for them to have access to their corporate emails and their corporate information on their personal iPad. Nowadays, that resistance to combine access to corporate information with more non-traditional business IT devices, such as tablets, has all but disappeared. So why is this the case? The answer is very simple. It's control and security. The advent of mobile device management platforms such as AirWatch and MobileIron, to mention a couple, in conjunction with the evolution of the tablet operating systems, means that tablets can be deployed for day-to-day business use in a secure, controlled, and manageable way. Businesses can really shape the service delivered to the end user exactly as they wish, whether the end user is an employee of the company or perhaps an end customer. The user experience can be controlled, line of business applications can be installed and updated over the air, and even browsing and connectivity services can be configured appropriately and locked down if required. So if we couple that with the benefits that tablets bring in terms of size, cost, battery life, always-on connectivity, and the intuitive user interface, you start to have a very powerful business tool which is capable of not only increasing business efficiency, but also driving revenue and bringing to life new service-based product propositions as well. So now we'll take a look at the opportunities for monetization across the three different segments that Sander discussed a few minutes ago, and we'll start with healthcare. So healthcare is a very interesting case study because depending on what part of the world you're from and the economical and political landscape you form part of, the words healthcare and revenue might not necessarily seem like a natural fit. But additional revenue streams or perhaps a change in revenue can be delivered in a couple of different ways. So new revenue streams can be established as a result of the development of new patient services, but a similar financial outcome could also be achieved as a result of implementing a smarter, more efficient way of delivering existing healthcare services, which naturally results in cost savings for the healthcare organization as well. If we consider the use cases that exist within the healthcare sector, the primary markets we're looking at really include hospitals, doctors' offices, home healthcare, nursing homes, as well as first responders. And as a general statement, the primary aim of providing access to a tablet in any of the aforementioned use cases is simple: on-demand access to important information. That information could be patient records that the first responder is accessing to check what medication the patient is allergic to, or perhaps a nurse who, having just completed a home visit with a patient, is uploading the results and the notes of that interaction to a central healthcare server that exists on the back end before moving on to the next home visit. Whatever the scenario, having a tablet device that can provide instant access to critical information no doubt increases efficiency and delivers a more streamlined way of working. There's a lot of innovation taking place in healthcare in terms of how patient services are delivered, and the use of tablets is really playing a big part in that. Whether that tablet's actually in the hands of the patient themselves or the medical professional. Nurses who have access to tablets whilst performing patient home visits, for example, are able to get expert advice on the spot by video conferencing with a doctoral consultant. Now, this not only makes for a better patient experience, but the number of consultations the remote doctor can carry out on a daily basis is exponentially increased as well. We're also seeing examples where tablets are loaned out to diabetic patients who, via the tablet, are able to video conference with their doctor for the purpose of talking and guiding them through self-testing. And finally, another example to mention is the in-house use of tablets for medical staff means that training programs can be delivered in a more flexible manner, resulting in a reduction of travel time and costs, which obviously benefits the healthcare organization as well. So next we'll take a look at field services. The area of field services has been really one of the biggest adopters of tablets in the workplace. There's somewhat of a natural fit there. The primary goal of just about every field service call is very simple. It's a first-time, on-time fix, avoiding the need for any return visits. So what factors can really help deliver that goal? Well, it starts with making sure the field engineer knows exactly where to be and what time to be there, what their task is once they're on site, what tools they'll need to get the job done, and what to do if they need help whilst they're on site as well. And bringing all of that together as part of a simple workflow and delivering it directly to the field engineer in the form of a ruggedized tablet, as an example, has an enormous amount of benefit to the engineer, the business, and potentially the end customer as well. To continue that example, a job scheduling service with integrated route planning can be made available to the engineer via a simple-to-use application that's installed on the tablet. Information on what jobs the engineer has planned for the day, how long they're likely to take, and what the nature of the task will be once they arrive on site can be streamed down to the tablet by the office-based scheduling team, or perhaps a back-end system that has a certain business workflow embedded within it. At the click of a button, the engineer can let the next customer know when he or she is likely to arrive, and once the engineer arrives at site, they have complete access to the details of the job, as well as on-demand access to a knowledge management system, which can be used to research known equipment faults, or even perhaps consult with their fellow engineers via a corporate messaging application or video conferencing. All of this combined means that calls are carried out in a more efficient and professional manner, which results in customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and an overall reduction in running costs. Now, if we look beyond the cost efficiencies achieved simply by executing the field visits in a more efficient way, there are also opportunities for additional revenue by using information gathered by the engineer during a site visit to upsell additional products and services. As an example of that, an extended warranty package could be offered to the end customer based on the serial number and the warranty expiration date of the equipment as captured by the engineer when he or she is being on site. So the final sort of industry to take a look at here is really around retail, food and services, and really hospitality in general. This is a sector that's another great example of how tablets are really changing the way we buy products and services, and the way we order fast food, or we dine out, or even the way we check into hotels. whether they're used as fixed stations in hotel lobbies or carried around as on-the-job tools by waiters and sales assistants. Tablets are really featuring more and more in these environments. And if we look specifically at retail outlets, from a consumer convenience point of view, customers can now walk into a store and effectively self-shop. The customer selects the products they want to buy from the shelf, and via an in-store tablet, they can quickly and easily pay for their items before leaving the store. If we flip that around and look at the experience from the retailer's perspective, there's a reduction in operational costs in terms of personnel, but also automated opportunities to maximize their revenue as well. So at the point of checkout, based on the items the shopper has selected, simple business flows behind a connected tablet app can be used to upsell additional products and services suited to the customer's preferences based on what they're about to buy. As an example of that, if a shopper has purchased a new electronic item, an accessory or service-based offering, such as an extended warranty from the retailer, could automatically be upsold to the customer then and there. And this approach serves a number of purposes. The customer experience is smooth and effortless, and the retailer has maximized their opportunity for additional revenue whilst reducing their personnel costs. To take that a step further, the customer information captured by the tablet application can also be used to keep the customer up to date on new products and services, or perhaps even offer discounts based on that particular customer's preferences or their previous purchases. Looking at how tablets are used in the restaurant business, the focus is really around presenting menu options and beverage selections to diners in a more interactive and exciting way. Diners can make their food selection, and the tablet-based application can suggest perhaps a suitable wine based on the reviews of previous diners and the meal choice that the diner has made. Beyond the diner interaction, having meal and drink orders electronically routed through to the kitchen or the bar inevitably speeds up customer wait times and improves the overall level of service provided to the diners, which leads to customer satisfaction and hopefully customer loyalty and return visits. So in the next section, what we'd like to do now that we've run through some of the more sort of general industry trends and some of the applications and use cases is to really have a look at what Core can do and how Core are well positioned to really help with your tablet deployment.
Right, Peter, if you look at the challenges we are facing in the market, for example, you and I, we have done quite some visits with customers together. But what you in many occasions see is that if I am a customer and I'm deploying, for example, my product all over the globe, they need to go to different carriers, for example. How does Core handle that? How do we handle covers, for example?
So as I'll point to the introduction you did during the first few slides, which is based on the sheer number of carrier integrations we've got with tier 1 carriers, and all of those being integrated into our management platform. It means we're very well positioned to serve any customer requirement regardless of geography or territory that they're deploying in. Now that could be that a customer needs global coverage, and they need to be assured that wherever in the world the tablets end up, that they'll be able to switch the device on, and they'll be able to get cellular connectivity. But looking at a sort of more localized version of that, it might be that if a customer is deploying services, say in the UK, and there happens to be a black spot in one of their restaurants that they can't get service from one particular operator, having a one-stop shop like Core that can provide them with multiple UK-based carriers or multiple carriers in a particular country can really help serve their needs and make sure that wherever they're deploying their services, they get the coverage, and they can, that's not something they need to worry about. Right.
So, and for example, if you look at pricing plans, they are mainly, if you look at some of the tablet solutions we have encountered, they're mainly designed for consumer deployments, but not really optimized for business to business. How does Core differentiate to that?
So I think in a general sense, the price plans that we have can be very flexible. So we can set those up according to the customer's very specific requirements. I think if we look at the use case of tablets in general, you're really looking at more high bandwidth or high data usage consumption. So ranging anywhere from based on our experience from sort of 500 meg per month to upwards of 100 gig. And what we tend to find is some customers will often opt to go for a single global SIM-based solution, which is great in terms of making sure that wherever the device goes, that it can get coverage and there's an operator agreement there. But it doesn't necessarily offer the competitiveness needed from a rate plan point of view when it comes to some high bandwidth services, and that's where we can really help, because having the multiple sort of global carriers integrated into one single platform means that we can stretch a customer service across potentially multiple carriers, and they can also benefit from the competitive rate plans from deploying a local SIM in particular regions that are all managed by a single platform.
Thank you. And how do we handle, I don't know, let's say multiple vendor relationships for our customers?
So our key USP really is to be that one-stop shop in terms of our tablet solution. So if we look at what comprises a tablet solution or a managed tablet solution, or specifically what the customer needs to consider before deploying a tablet to their workers or to their marketplace, there are a few different components that fall under that. So we've got mobile device management that I referred to earlier, which is really around securing the operating system and the data at rest within the device. We've got the hardware, we've got the connectivity, and then we've got the configuration and deployment of the device. And our managed tablet proposition is really based around taking care of every single one of those aspects, specifically according to a customer's requirements.
Right. And what about equipment? There is a lot of equipment available into the market. Some customers, they already have equipment. Is that limited?
Well, I think if you look at equipment, means one of two things really. So there's the hardware itself, and then there's the underlying operating system on that device. Now, there are two choices there. There's and these choices are not necessarily separated. There's what is my application. So as an example, if it's field services and the tablet's going to be used on a building site, you probably want a ruggedized device for that. Whereas if it's in a retail setting, you might want something a bit more kind of elegant and slimline. But if we look at the application or rather the operating system side of things, that plays a part as well, because the customer might have a line of business application that he wants to deploy to that tablet, and operating system selection will play a part there. The point for Core is that regardless of what you're looking for, we have a range of various different vendors that we work with. So that includes Apple, Samsung, LG, ZTE, Bluebird for some of the ruggedized options, and TomTom as well. So regardless of what the customer's application or use case is, we're confident we have a hardware and an operating system to serve that requirement.
So it is fair to say that almost, every kind of equipment available, in market, we are open for discussion and to see if we could customize this for the customer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. From a financial perspective, Peter, some companies prefer OPEX versus CAPEX. What kind of financing models are there?
So specifically from Core's point of view, we offer both. So we have a CAPEX model and an OPEX model, depending on what the customer is looking for and what their requirements are. We see a trend towards OPEX models specifically. There are some obvious advantages there, not least the cost predictability, which is particularly important when it comes to budgeting for the financial year.
Right. One other thing, if you these days open a magazine, an IoT magazine, or you look at on the internet and search for IoT and deployments, one of the topics which comes back every time is security, for example. how secure is the solution of ours?
Well, I think I mentioned it during one of the slides. I think during the first slide I presented when I spoke to the IT manager who was sort of petrified of what this actually meant for him. And this is where there's been a lot of advancement made in terms of how tablets are deployed. A lot of this comes down to the mobile device management software, and as well as the operating systems that have the likes of Google and the likes of Apple have opened those up so that they can be manipulated in a positive sense. So the mobile device management platforms basically allow the customer to really sort of shape that experience and lock that tablet down in the appropriate manner, and that could be across the what applications are available on the devices or what settings are open to the user to configure. But I think from our point of view, there's a bit more to it. So we separate it out into data at rest and data in transit. And data at rest is really the bit that I've spoken about there, making sure that whatever's available in terms of applications and corporate information on the device is secure and it's encrypted and it's not open to outside forces. Whereas if we look at the data in transit, and I'll use the example of a healthcare application here. If you imagine the nurse in the home who's entering what is very sensitive patient information, she's sending it over the wire to a back-end server. We absolutely need to make sure that that is secure end-to-end. So we implement a number of network-level controls, including private APNs and VPN links back to the customer, to make sure that there's security when it comes to the data in transit.
That's clear. And from a support point of view, Peter, how are we supporting our customers with this solution?
Well, look, we're as Core, we're well versed in providing global support for IoT connectivity services. That's something we know very well, and we've extended that to our managed tablet proposition and some of our other value-added services as well, to account for the device aspect or the value-added platforms like our mobile device management platform. So we act as that one-stop shop. If there's a problem in the field with a particular device, there's one number of customer calls. They don't have to go off to their mobile device management vendor or their connectivity provider or the device hardware manufacturer, for an example. All the support flows through Core, and we take care of the rest on their behalf.
So we are their single point of contact, and we relieve them of all those tasks themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I would like to do is kind of summarize that conversation we've just had there, Sander. So if we look at the overall messages, really that from Core's perspective, we're very well positioned to deliver that end-to-end journey for the customer, and that goes from start to finish. So if we look at the consultation and the requirements gathering, that for us is a very important part of the process. We need to understand what the customer is looking for in terms of hardware and security requirements. We also look at the equipment side of things. So do you already have an iOS application that you need to deploy? If you do, then it's pretty obvious that we want to go down the route of supplying you with Apple hardware. If it might be a little bit more open and the customer might be sort of at the start of their managed tablet journey and they haven't yet made those sort of decisions. So during that consultation phase, that's very important for us to make sure we understand where the customer's at, and we can provide sort of best practice advice to that customer on what we've experienced with other customers and what services we can offer over and above for them. If we look at the connectivity side of things, I think we've stressed how important that is, particularly for customers who are deploying global solutions. They need to make sure that if they're coming to a one-stop shop like Core, that we have all the connectivity partners in place. We can make sure that wherever in the world they're going to be deploying their tablets, that when they switch them on, they connect to the network first time, there's no issue. And then from a professional services point of view, this is probably where most of the value is added. So if you consider, we as consumers, we can buy connectivity, we can buy tablets, we can muddle through the configuration ourselves. But when you're doing this on a large scale, you effectively need a dedicated production line set up to manage that process, and that's really what Core takes care of. We do all the setup and the configuration of the devices. We make sure that if it needs to be paired with a Bluetooth device, that's done before it leaves the warehouse and furthermore shipped out to the end user. If we look more then to the in-life services and how the customer manages that or gets Core to manage it on their behalf once it's in the hands of the end user or the field service engineer, whoever that might be, whatever the application might be, we have our Prism Pro platform, which provides access to the to be able to see exactly what the connectivity-based services are doing, and that's backed up with our global support team, accessible sort of 24/7, all around the world, and with multilingual support. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, that really takes care of the connectivity, the device, any configuration issues. The customer's not having to go to different vendors and different parties to find out exactly where the problem is. Okay, so that's it from us. Thank you very much for your time and for listening to us. At this point, I'd like to hand back to Jeremy.
Thank you both. Thanks, gentlemen. And thank you to our audience for your questions. Please do keep them coming. Any that we don't get to today, we'll obviously pass on to our speakers to answer offline. But without any further delay, let's get into the questions that we've got. A questioner from Canada says, can your customers use their own tablets? Would that be something that you'd be able to support, Sander?
Well, I think Peter already explained this also in his story earlier. But we always need to sit together with the customer. So I'd like to say yes, but we need to make sure that it's really a good fit, but also that looking forward to the future, that the hardware they have today is also supported, for the coming years. So I'd like to say yes, but I really would like to get in contact with the person who asked this question and to see if we could answer it private and to see if we can move forward on that.
That sounds eminently sensible. Peter, is there anything you would add to that?
No, nothing to add to that from my side.
Okay. Next question. My company is in the transportation industry, and it seems there are opportunities for tablet adoption. Do you have any example use cases?
I think from my side, the one that's the one that I've certainly seen more and more of is when we look at taxi cabs as an example, or private taxis, particularly in sort of big cities. These are doubling up in the back of taxi cabs as opportunities for promotion. So you'll find that on the back of the seat just behind the driver, there's a tablet and effectively a presentation, sometimes an interactive presentation that's running. Providing information on nearby hotels or services or clubs or bars. And if you look at that from a revenue perspective, not only is the taxi cab getting their normal sort of day-to-day revenue out of the taxi fare, but also they're getting additional advertising revenue that has been in that industry in some ways before, when we look at the kind of exterior banners that are placed on taxis and buses and the like. But actually having a dynamic sort of in-car experience that's offered to the end consumer, not only serves the end consumer because they can pay by that tablet as well, but if we're talking about identifying new revenue streams, that's definitely something that I've really seen an increase in when it comes to transportation.
I'm going to be a little bit cheeky here because I've got the microphone. I wanted to ask Sander something that occurred to me during your presentation, and that was, do you find that people are using tablets foremost for business efficiency, or are they driven more by the desire for new services and new revenues first? What's driving the market most?
No, I really think it's based on business efficiency, because if you look at the tablet solution we are offering, it is really helping organizations to be or to work more in a cost-effective way. If you look at certain processes, when you offer a managed tablet solution into those processes, you really can save a lot of money. So that's one from the perspective of money saving. But also, if you look at, for example, usage, let's say the other day I was talking to a customer, and they are a manufacturer of beds. And when you order a bed online, you also can put a date in to a system into the portal when to deliver, for example, this bed. The transportation company behind it, they sometimes run into issues, or there has been an accident on the road or something like that, and then they can see it right away on their tablet, take action, and inform the customer that, for example, they will be late or not being able to deliver at all at the same day. It's not only more cost effective, but it's also an extra service towards their end customers, saying, well, you don't need to be longer at your home, for example. You can go away and we come back tomorrow at 10 o'clock or at a convenient time whenever you want. So it's also related to customer satisfaction.
Yeah, you can see why that would really play well with end users. Peter, a questioner asks, what is the best way to start the process for implementing a tablet solution at their company?
Well, I think that consultation period is the most important, and before you even get to that point, the question is why? Why are you embarking on this journey? Is it, as you just said, to make life easier for employees, or is it because you want to drive some form of new revenue? Now, I don't think that answer is necessarily is kind of a clear one to begin with, because no one would say no to both of those. And what we've definitely seen is a trend where, in the first instance, tablets are introduced into the workplace to benefit the internal employees of that company, and they've evolved into revenue generating tools as well. So Sander mentions things like if you've got guys in the field sending alerts out to customers. I've also seen a particular package delivery company that has exactly that, but within the and it's offered to their mobile workforce. But if the user clicks on the link that's delivered to them in a text message, they can actually pay to reserve a particular time slot then and there during that day. So there are small examples of where one is transforming into the other. I think specifically in terms of how you embark upon this process, it's really looking at what you want to achieve out of it, because that will really provide most of the answers around what tablets you need to use, what operating system is going to be best, what MDM provider is going to work best for your requirements, and security is always a big one as well. So I think the customers need to have at least a basic idea of what they're looking to get out of the deployment.
Peter, this may also be a question for you. Somebody says, my company currently manages our tablets as a one-off. How do we move to a managed tablet solution? Is that something that you'd like to tackle?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure I've completely understood that question, but let me provide my answer anyway. When we talk about Core's managed tablet proposition, what we're effectively talking about is not necessarily just the in-field management of those tablets, but actually management of the deployment process. So if you consider the various components that fall into this, you need someone to provide the connectivity, you need to buy the hardware, you need to establish a baseline configuration for the tablets as well. All of these tasks that need to be carried out, as I mentioned earlier, kind of fall into their own mini production line, and doing that within the a business's existing setup isn't always the most practical thing to do, which is really where our core value-added service comes in. We take care of that part of it, so that when we talk about managed and a managed tablet proposition, that's primarily the piece of the puzzle that we're talking about, managing on the customer's behalf.
There's quite a good but fairly generic question here. Somebody wants to know if you can give examples of best practice for deployments that they can look at. Who'd like to tackle that one?
I'm quite happy to say that one as well.
Thanks, Peter.
I'm probably going to provide a relatively boring and repetitive answer here, but for me, this all goes back to the consultation period. Before we've even decided what tablets we want to go with or connectivity services we want to use, it's really about doing a drains-up view on what are we looking to get out of this deployment, who is it going to benefit, and how do we need to go about that deployment, and what is our business set up to handle at this point. I think that's everything kind of starts from that point when we look at the best practices around deploying those units. For core specifically, part of the value of working with us is that we can ensure that whatever hardware is being used or platform or connectivity services that are being offered on top of the tablets, they're approved for use in the territories that the customer wants to deploy in, and effectively then they don't really need to worry about too much else on top of that.
Sander, a quick question for you here. You've talked about on-demand access to important information for healthcare providers. I mean, critical data can be very, very sensitive. Are you finding that patients are positive about the use of tablets? Are they engaged with it, or is there some sensitivity about the handling of their data?
Well, I don't think that there in this time of age that there is still this issue, because we really can handle the security in a very good manner. And also, if you go these days to a hospital, for example, and just the other day I went with my own dad to a hospital, then when you come in, there's someone standing at the door and asking, who you are, your last name, what you're going to do, and you will be assisted to a person, and they already have your whole file with them. And so when you enter the doctor's office, all the information is there. And I think it's more and more accepted these days that's the case.
Yeah, understood. Well, gentlemen, we are out of time now. There are other questions which we will forward to you from the audience, and I want to thank everyone involved. The aim of the webinar has been to try and help you get the most out of using tablets in the Internet of Things, simply so that you get a better service experience for yourself and for your end users. We've obviously heard about the industries that are already benefiting. We've seen some of the advantages of using tablets. The monetization opportunities have been outlined, and now we just heard more about best practice in deployments. Inevitably, sadly, that's all we have time for. So don't forget to bookmark our website at iot-now.com. You will, as always, find the latest news there, plus videos, blogs, events, and interviews. And from tomorrow, you can stream this webinar from the site. It just remains for me to say a very big thank you to all our speakers. Firstly, Robin Duke-Woolley of Beecham Research. Thanks, Robin.
Thanks very much, Jeremy.
Sander Mulder of Core Wireless. Thank you too, Sander.
It really was my pleasure. Thank you.
And to Core's Peter van den Houten. Great to have you here again, Peter.
My pleasure. Good to talk to everyone today.
And most of all, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us around the world. Do keep safe, and we really do appreciate the time you've spent with us. From everyone here at IoT Now, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.